Today we're just going to be talking a little bit about propaganda and art and how you can do it in the modern age. Now, I've gotten some questions about some of the artwork that I use on my channel and if I'm the one who's making all of that and so on and so forth. And yeah, it's all me. I'm just kind of playing around. I'm an amateur when it comes to art and artwork and graphic design. I just like to play around with it a little bit. It's a lot of fun. And so the only thing I have here that most people probably won't have is a drawing tablet. It's a cheap one. But it's extremely useful for making artwork like this, especially when you want to erase and paint and blend. So this is obviously my profile picture, and I'm in the latest version of Photoshop. And I took this image and I wanted to do something different with it and make a new intro image kind of thing, maybe even a new channel banner. And I went from this image here to this image here. And I wanted to explain kind of how I got to this point. Now this isn't perfect. I'm not happy with this, and I'm going to make some changes. So we went from this to this, and this is the canvas I'm going to work on right now. So first things first, what I did was take your Smart Select tool and just outline whatever image you want, and then paste it on. This layer right here is my paint layer. It's not great, but like I said, I'm an amateur at painting. But this is the head layer in general. So here's kind of what the image looked like beforehand. And then here's the layers that I've tacked onto it. So just paste the head and then kind of stretch it out to where you want to. You can do that with Control T. I'll kind of zoom in just a little bit and bring out my paint tool. Low opacity, and we're going to just do normal. Oh, but you know what I should do first? First things first, you want to go to... I want to flatten this first to make it one solid image. And I have backups with these all saved in case I make a mistake and want to go back. But first, we want to adjust this. We want to adjust the curves. So what I want to do is I want to darken the darks, bring out the orange and all of the reds, and increase the hue on the blues. So we're going to go into the curves, click here, and drag it somewhere like here. Oh, too dark, too dark. That looks pretty good. You can see the blues are a little bit darker. The orange is a little bit more orange. There's a lot more contrast between the image. So the reason I chose this as a basis for a picture is because it has a lot of good composition already built into it. And there's no way I could fucking make paint an image like this. It's just not possible. But you've got let's go and okay that. You've got 3 distinct images. You've got great color contrast. You've got an interesting image that immediately draws your eye in. The composition is already there, so I'm going to just kind of use it here. So what I want to do, take my normal brush, downsize it just a little bit, and I want to fix the borders here because these borders look like shit, and I know this is too blurry, this is too sharp. You know, the skin color doesn't really match. The tones are different. You know, it's kind of hard to go from this to more of like a healthy orange color. So I've kind of tried to paint over it without removing too much detail. And then I'm going to add in some final details and some text at the end. So take your brush and then use Alt, and I'm just going to kind of blend in these. You want to blend it like paint. So take a little bit of that. Mix that in, and you want to make a gradient between the 2 colors. So as you mix in more and more, just kind of grab the color. Let's put a little bit more darkness in there so it's a bit more apparent that this is a gradient. And in particular, this right here is a little bit fudgy. And I'm just going to paint this just a little bit. And I want to make this a little bit darker, especially right around here. Kind of match the contour of the hair. And then I'll make this a little bit bigger. And I want to cut out some of this grayer tone, because you can see the hair is kind of folding around. It's making like a bowl shape right here. Kind of want to do that a bit differently. Oh. I'm gonna make it pretty distinct. And this border right here is actually, it's okay, it's pretty decent, but down here, you know, there's a lot of blending work that needs to be done. And it's going to erase some of the detail, but it's going to blend in, I think, pretty nicely. And for that, I'm going to increase the opacity just a little bit. There we go. It's a, ooh, oh, shit. Kind of erase some of the detail there. Let's undo that. Control-Alt-Z. Actually looked slightly better before. There we go. That's a little bit, well. That's a little bit better. And then we kind of want to contrast this. Take a lighter color. Oh, Jesus. Not what I wanted. That's a bit better. In fact, I'm going to turn the opacity way down so this can blend a little bit better. That's okay. It's not perfect. Doesn't really have to be perfect. You know, if you're just learning like I am, things don't have to be perfect. Just kind of do your best. You know, we're all about self-improvement around here. Don't beat yourself up if you're not perfect at this shit. That looks okay. And so I'll zoom out. Fit on screen. That looks okay. So we've got a nice split down here in the composition where this side has a lot more blue light and this side has a lot more orange light, which is pretty good. But the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some color to the eyes. And this is an effect I like to do because it brings a little bit more character to this image that I like to use here. So go to your brush tool and then you want to linear dodge add. You want to make sure you flatten out all your layers, make sure you save beforehand, and we'll zoom in just a little bit. Brush tool, linear dodge. Oh, actually, you know what? The drawer is locked. Excuse me? Come on, Photoshop. Play nice here. Back to the brush tool. Now what we want to do is we want to make the eye color the same as this right here. So I'll grab like maybe something like that. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And we'll zoom back in. So linear dodge add is a special brush. It's got this really nice glow effect to it. I couldn't tell you how or why or what it's really used for. But so we've got our color blue. We've got the right tool selected. We want to up the opacity just a bit for this initial coloring. Maybe like 7 or 8%. And then just kind of slowly fill this in. Turn down just a little bit. Actually, maybe turn it up just a little bit. Because we want this to really glow. There we go. There's some glow. This is only the first initial sort of painting in of the eyes. So that looks pretty good. It's got a nice neat little effect there. So just check our work. The color, it kind of matches. It's a little bit too bright, but I think that's probably the best I can get. So now, whoops, too far. Back to the brush tool. And drag this down to like super low levels. We're talking like 2%, maybe even 1%. And then I'll increase the size. And I'm using this sort of blending style kind of brush rather than a solid figure. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some lighting to the skin and the surrounding area. Let's go up a little bit more, 5%. But if your opacity is too strong, it's going to look more like you've just painted over something. So keep that in mind. We're just going to localize this a bit. Kind of make a nice little circle that follows the brow ridge. That looks pretty good. And then I'm going to drop this down a little bit more. 2%. There we go. And then do a little bit more color. Oh, whoops. Too hard. A little bit more coloration on the outside, so we just have a little bit of the hue coming off. I'm going to change the brush size. So I want to follow the ridge of the nose here. Follow the ridge of the brow. Maybe do a little bit here. A little bit here. That looks okay. I'm going to make sure that this blends in nice and smoothly. Kind of get there in the bags of his eyes almost. We'll blend it in a little bit more. You could go full detail and add, you know, some coloration here, maybe a little bit of coloration over here if you wanted. Maybe add a little bit here in the in the hair. I'm not going to do that. I think that looks pretty good because remember, what's going to end up happening is the image is only going to be seen for a relatively short amount of time, and it's also going to be zoomed out to its fullest. So that looks pretty good. Now you can see the difference between this is a little bit lighter hue. And the reason I don't like this is because it's too bright. You compare these two. Oops. This one fits the tone a lot better of that blue. It's a little bit darker. That looks pretty good. Now the final thing I'm going to do is add some text. So I'm using this Viking font. And I'll fix the color of that here in just a sec. We want to move it over. And the reason I'm placing the text down here is because if you stick it up here, it's too busy. Of course, you don't want it off here. You don't want it off here. You don't want it in the center because that's going to take away from the viewer's eye here in the composition. So you want to stick it like down here. This is a pretty good place. It's not too busy. You've got these nice center lines here that are drawing in attention to the letters. Just make sure you center it. Maybe about right there. And then I want to go to blending options. We want to bevel it, contour. I want a little bit more bevel, a little bit more size, so it really looks like it's like almost 3D text, like it's someone's carved it out of leather or something like that. And then we want a little bit of stroke. And this is going to add black or whatever color you want outline to the letter, so I just want a little bit. And then I want maybe a gradient overlay, and this will change the color of the text. You could also do a color overlay if you want, but I just want this gradient here. And scale it down just a little bit. And then maybe I'll add some outer glow to it, just so it kind of pops. Change the opacity if you want. Just want it to glow a little bit. And there's other options as well. Most of these suck really hard, but this is a nice color. We want it to blend nicely there. Kind of around the edges, just so it pops out, but it's not too distracting. And that looks pretty good. I think I'll go with that. Maybe move it up a little bit. That looks pretty good. Make sure that, you know, you always make sure that you zoom out and just kind of get a feel for the image. That looks pretty good. I'm happier with this than I was with this. Yeah, there's just something about this I wasn't feeling it really. So there you go. There's a quick little tips and tricks that I use to make artwork in Photoshop. So get out there and start making some propaganda.